Item number 8 is approved development plan 20-03 to allow the construction of a 176-unit affordable housing apartment complex located at 470 Bernard Drive. Assessor's parcel number 53-470-091. This will be presented by our Development Services Director, Ben Moody.
All right, so good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So the item before you is in regards to Development Plan 20-03 Richland Village Affordable Housing Complex. So this is a 176-unit apartment complex that's proposed for 470 Bernard Drive. So just a visual here. This is Garden Highway. This is the Richland Housing Complex. In the back southeast corner of that complex, up against the airport, is where this is proposed. So this, as stated, is proposed for 176 affordable housing apartment complex. It's composed of 8 buildings, 88 one-bedroom, 44 two-bedroom, and 44 three-bedroom, with approximately 2,800 square foot community center that goes into it. So the reason we're here before the city council tonight is, per the city's planning entitlement process regarding development plans, when you get to a certain size, there's different thresholds where it comes to the planning commission, if it's less than 100 units, and then if for more than 100 units, it goes to the planning commission for recommendation, and then it comes to the city council. So in December, the planning commission reviewed this project and recommended 7-0 for approval to the council. And so we're here tonight basically with the final decision, with looking at the project for the development plan as far as does it fit the city's findings that we'll get into later, as far as making the findings as the right fit for Yuba City and how it's proposed. So here's a site plan. It's a little bit hard to see with the black and white, but basically Bernard Drive comes north and southbound, and then you have these 8 buildings that are staggered back and forth, and then you see the community center up to the right, to the east, and then what we have here are these. We'll come back later, are basically contour lines that align with the airport as far as what the maximum building height is allowed under the airport planning, with it being so close to the airport. And so here's a little color version to kind of highlight the different parcels that are going on. And so this is a land use map, so out of the general plan. And so what we have here is it shows this is this general plan medium low density residential with a density range of 6 to 14 units. So in the city's general plan, there you go. So this entire area is marked for medium to low density, 6 to 14 units per acre is what the overall density average is for that. And so in that area, it's typically single family, duplexes, multifamily, mobile home parks. The zoning for that location is R3. And so it's a little tricky when you look at it, because we're basically saying, hey, we want medium density in here. But when you look at our zoning map, you see the R3, which is basically a designation for the highest density allowed in our zoning code to give that flexibility for apartment complex. And so what the area we're looking for here is so with the proposed apartment complex falls within our R3 zoning. But it's if you look at it on a per acre basis, it's over our land use density under the general plan. But when we're taking a look at it, we'll get into it a little bit more. We're looking at the overall average for that complex to be within that 6 to 14 units. And so to add to this, there's recent state density bonus laws that have gone into effect with the housing crisis that allow, based on the affordability of the proposed complexes, that you could bump up the allowed density. And so with this being 100% affordable at the proposed thresholds, it allows for an 80% bonus in the density above the city's standard, and it allows for reduced parking. So here's a little flash of the airport comprehensive land use plan. It's an older document, 1994. It's just a relation that with it being so close to the airport, we circulated it to the to the county and to the airport representative just to make sure everything, they were up to speed with it and didn't have any concerns with the proposed development or were meeting their needs. And so with that, there were some preliminary discussions about the height, and no further comment was given. You know, and then going back to that a little bit, we'll see where the buildings are. When you go back to the buildings on the elevations, we'll see here where you'll see the height staggered in order to meet those height requirements. So bordering information, the project site, it's right in the middle of that R3 zoning. And so you have R3 multiple family residential at the project site. To the north, you have the north of the, so this north area, you get into some CM heavy commercial, light industrial. To the west, I mean, really, you're in this public, still regional housing authority area. And then we have M1 light industrial here. South, you have the M1 manufacturing, and right now it's currently Orchard. And then you have the airport and public to the east. So here's the elevations of the building. It's a contemporary design, brown, beige, green earth tones, horizontal siding, helps reduce the mass of the building. And what I want to express, and the RHA's team is here with our architect, is that the city worked with this project. Affordable housing is not affordable for it to be constructed with the many elements that go into it. And so there was a real effort not to be opulent, but at the same time not to be at a scale that, not to be at a level that it doesn't meet city's design standards and becomes something that's not valued. And so we worked with them to try to come up with value engineering ideas with some of the siding options, some of the window treatments to try to put a little bit of love into the staircases, and the architecture team could add to that to try to give it a little bit more pop and meet the city standards, but not be over the top. Here's a elevation of the stepped buildings. And so what's going on here is with the building being close to the airport, they've staggered the stories in order to comply with the requirements. And so those are the eastern buildings. The buildings on the west, they'll be full height. And so then we have a community center as part of the construction and requirement for open space, and as part of the proposed development. They have a proposed community building that they could add to it, but it has a shared area plus a proposed office area that could be used. Okay, so get into the density here a little bit. So the R3 zoning under the city's code is the standard for medium density residential allows 1 unit per 1,500 square feet of lot based on the total square footage of the project site. So if you just went straight city standard code, they'd be able to build 146 units. But being able to use the California density bonus law with this exception to density, it's on a sliding scale that allows it to bump up that up to 80%, which would allow them to have almost close to 260, 270 spaces for that area. And so they're well within that density bonus law in California. Additionally, for the parking, California has basically said, if you qualify for this affordable housing and this density bonus, you could reduce, the city's current standard is 1 space per bedroom. You could bring that down to half a space, or half a parking space per unit. And so what they're proposing with this design is 186 spaces. So every apartment complex would basically have 1 stall, plus there's some biking in there. But so with that, is just I want to be clear that they're well within the density bonus law of California, and they're real close to meeting the city's standard requirement. Bicycle parking, city standard for this would be 3% per our zoning code, which is 6 spaces approximately. What they're proposing is 84 spaces. So they're well within the bicycle parking. And then with that, there's also some bicycle storage on some real in-depth thought was put into the bike facilities and the locker, so they wouldn't be having them hanging off the porches and be in a controlled area, and then have access out to Garden Highway ultimately in the bike paths. Okay, so a traffic analysis was done. The long story, there was minimal impacts. So no modifications to either study intersection, Garden Highway and Percy or Miles, or Samuel at Garden Highway. We looked at those two intersections and had them analyzed with the existing and proposed during peak hour traffic. And with that, there basically was negligible change. And so AM peak hour, basically what they're saying is we're having about 12 enter, 38 exit. PM peak hour, you're gonna have about 43 and 25. And so your level of service at those intersections right now is C, and it would remain at C at those intersections, which is basically the existing delay that's calculated at that facility. So environmental determination, pursuant to Sequa guidelines, the project's determined to be categorically exempt from environmental review. The project is consistent with applicable general plan designation and all applicable general plan policies, as well as with applicable zoning designation regulations. The proposed development occurs within city limits on a project site of no more than 5 acres, substantially surrounded by urban uses. The project site has no value as habitat for endangered, rare, or threatened species. The approval of the project would not result in the significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and the site can be adequately served by all required utilities and public services. So through the city's municipal code and the entitlement process, there needs to be 4 findings. And these findings are that the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and shape to accommodate said use, public access, parking, and loading, yards, landscape, and other features required by this chapter of the municipal code. The streets serving the site are adequate to carry the quantity of traffic generated by the proposed use. The site design and the size and design of the building will complement neighboring facilities, and the application satisfies at least one of the findings found in Title 6, Chapter 9, Article 6 of the municipal code related to building outside of a floodplain. And so with that, I'm recommending tonight that you conduct a public hearing, then adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Yuba City approving Development Plan 20-03 and associated Sequa categorical exemption for the construction of a 176-unit affordable housing apartment complex at 470 Bernard Drive. I'm happy to answer any questions, and also the design team with Regional Housing Authority is here to help answer any questions about the project also.
All right. Any quick questions before we open the public hearing for Mr. Moody? Okay. Public hearing on Development Plan 20-03, which will allow the construction of a 176-unit affordable housing complex located at 470 Bernard Drive, is now open. If there are any members of the public who would like to address the council on this issue, please provide your statement via public comment and state your name and address for the record. Do we have any comments from the public on this item?
We do have one comment from, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but the question is, does this project require prevailing wage?
So yes, this project, with it being, right now the financing is not in position. So this project right now is in the entitlement phase. So it's being designed, it's being approved, but currently my understanding is not financed as of now. And so with that though, when it goes to construction, due to the proposed federal and state money being involved, it would require prevailing wage.
No additional public comment.
Okay, we'll wait a few seconds just in case. Probably should be playing Jeopardy music or something, right?
Additional question from the same member of the public. Is any pre-qual language? Not sure exactly. It seems, does that make sense to you? Pre-qualifying language, maybe?
So for tonight, just to be clear, tonight, the items before city council to determine that it's categorically exempt under Sequa and that we're approving the design of the development. So we're not approving the contract specifications. We're not approving when it goes out to bid. We're setting a 2-year time frame that they need to start construction from this time that we're approving it without further extension. And so, but as far as the contract specs, if the design team wants to add on to that.
Mr. Becerra or your team, any questions or any comments on that or an answer to that question?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. I didn't quite get that second question. Got the first question regarding the prevailing wages, and Mr. Moody answered that correctly. Can you repeat the second question, Ben?
Gus, I think he's asking if there's qualifying requirements in the contract specs.
In terms of subcontractors, I imagine is what they're asking, and no, I mean, at this point, we're so early in the process that construction drawings are not completed as of this moment until we finance the deal. Once construction drawings are complete, then our general contractor will bid out the trades individually. There will be some payment and performance bonding requirements, as that is a requirement of our financing. But other than that, no pre-qualification is needed.
No additional public comment.
We'll wait a few seconds. Okay. Hearing no other questions or no further comment on this issue, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring the matter back to the council. Start with you, Mr. Harris.
I don't have anything. I appreciate the information, and I also appreciate, on behalf of the public, the clarification of what our purpose right here and now is, Ben, and I understand that. And I think it looks good. I think it's going to help with our arena numbers as well. Eventually, we get to the end point here, but it looks. I like what you said. Functional and nice, but not opulent. And I think it's important that we keep that in mind, particularly in projects like this, because they're definitely expensive enough as it is. So thank you very much. And I really have no specific questions at this point.
All right. Mr. Vice Mayor. Mr. Kirchner.
Yeah. Mr. Moody, I thought that was an excellent presentation. Thank you for that. Just a couple of clarifications. You mentioned earlier that it is not on the floodplain. That's correct?
Correct. So a few years back, interim city manager Langley could probably articulate this better, but with the passage of SB 5 regarding 200-year flood levels being established in the urban area, and then also with the city participating in federal flood map requirements, the city the city verifies that all development occurs outside the floodplain. And so in this area, in the majority of Yuba City, we're outside the floodplain because we're protected by levees that have been improved to a level of standard that's acceptable.
And secondly, this development is part of a community. There's essentially one way in and one way out, right? On Gray and Garden and Percy.
I'd like to articulate that a little bit better. So with this project, it was routed through fire and discussed with the fire department just to confirm how it was going to be serviced. And so there's going to be 2 entrances and exits. But you're correct, into this overall complex, the main entrances are Garden Highway and Miles, Percy, the main with the signal. And then up to the north, the Samuel Drive wraps around and comes back.
Okay.
And so to the project site, it was important to have 2 entrances, exits. And so with that, the main entrance is going to be off Bernard, but there is also an entrance that's up here to the northeast that's been considered, that will be part of the plan.
Thank you for that clarification.
That it? Okay,
Hi,
your turn.
thank you, Mayor. I agree. I think the project is truly needed in this community, and it's very difficult to build, as we know, and getting something going. The designs of the plans, I like the improvements. Ben, you've done a really good job of working with Gus Becerra to make some modifications to still meet those standards. I know that you've been working on this project for at least probably late November, early December to try to move this project along. So I applaud your work and the work with Gus. Gus, I have a question for you. In looking at this project, approving for us to move forward, and I'm glad that our planning commission has given us the support in this. In order for you to get this going, this is one small step towards that building, right? What's your plan on the finances of this project? Because we're looking at, I don't know, 30 to 40 million.
Yes, council member.
Hold on here for a second, please. Hold on. I believe that's item 9. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here, which is discussing the funding for the project.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get ahead of myself or ahead of the council, Mayor. I can hold that question off for that item if you prefer.
That would be great.
Okay, thank you so much for helping with that. So we'll wait for that question there, Gus. But I do like the design and the opportunity to have additional affordable housing and the community center, I think, are all important. And the design looks really great. So thanks, Ben, for working with the Housing Authority on it and moving this actually quite quickly compared to, I think, what other community developments are doing in the region. Can you confirm that, Gus? If our city, how responsive was our city with your project compared to other cities? And I'm not asking you to, call out your other cities or other partners, but is there any comparison that we can learn from that?
Mr. Moody's been great. Him and his team have been excellent to work with, and I would say it's on par with most other cities and counties that we work with. But no, real good response from Ben and his staff. Pleasure to work with them.
That's the most neutral answer I've heard from you guys in a long time. Thank you. Okay, appreciate it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. The only question I have is one that I continue to get whenever we talk about housing, and whether it's residential housing or projects like this, is what are we considering affordable? And I know maybe that's a question above you, and maybe it is more to Mr. Becerra, but it's not pertinent to the approval or denial of this project, but I guess it's more of an informational thing. What are we classifying affordable now as far as affordable housing?
It really depends on the funding source, and I'll defer to Gus to get into the weeds on it. But depending on the funding source, if it's federal money, they'll have specific requirements depending on that type of money they want to give you, and then they will get into the percentage of the median income. And so this one, for this project, there was a breakdown about the 60% or less of the mean income. And so Gus, please elaborate farther. So I mean, that's the for sure and certain. They base it off this mean income level, and then it sets the percentage, and they're not market rate where it's just whatever the developer could rent it out for. It's subsidized. But depending on the funding source, where the money comes from, the word affordable definitely gets gray. It depends on what, any sort of apartment complex that's less than a house rental, it could be argued that it's affordable. But depending on that funding source and how that money is stipulated, it kind of sets what you could use and what the definition is.
Well, I know that we have something in the neighborhood of 300 other multifamily units potentially coming into the city. And I'm just wondering, as I present that to the public, they ask me, are these affordable or not? And I don't know if they're going to be affordable or not. Help me understand what affordable is. So these are being billed as affordable. Someone certainly should be able to say, what is affordable?
Well, it depends on what you're arguing for, right? And so if you're arguing for arena numbers and what the city's mandate is, we're saying everything in Yuba City is affordable compared to San Francisco. But if you're taking in federal money, they have specific requirements regarding what is affordable for that.
Okay. I tried to get an answer. Thank you for trying to give me an answer. I do think the project looks good. I do appreciate the value engineering, especially compared to other projects that we've looked at. I think it's in a good spot. I think it's something that the city really needs. And with that, unless there are any other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Through the mayor, if I may, one more comment.
Go ahead.
I think the question of affordability goes by not necessarily what it costs, obviously. Holy moly. But I think the fact that the intended recipient, they're affordable for them, something that they can reasonably afford the rent payment based on their income, and that the rent to be a certain percentage or below of their income is the target. That's as close as I can get for you.
Becky and Gus are definitely the gurus. I don't know if, Becky, you have anything to add to that regarding the firm definition on affordable.
Nope.
I see Becky, but she's muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As far as the definition of affordable, this project will serve families making a variety of income ranges, up to 50 or 60% of area median income. Right now for Sutter County, a 4-person household at 50% of AMI, as we refer to it, is at $34,950 per year. Those income limits do fluctuate on an annual basis, but that's where we're at currently for a 50% income limit.
Okay, that helps. Yeah. Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think, Councilwoman, I think you were getting ready to make a motion.
I was ready to move on the adoption of a resolution of the City Council of City of Yuba City approval of Development Plan D20-03 and associated Sequa categorical exemption for the construction of 176-unit affordable housing and apartment complex 470 Bernard Drive, APN 53-470-091.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Espandola, a second by Councilman Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None noted. Unanimous approval of item 8.